Welcome everyone to the Global Power Platform Bootcamp 2021 for Italy. Such a pleasure to be here. My name is Chris Horde. I'm a Teams MVP from Fusion here in the UK. And joining me today is Vesa Nopanen, also a Teams MVP from Sulava in Finland. Do you want to say hello, Vesa?
Hello everyone, it's a pleasure to be here and being presenting with Chris on the Teams as a platform deck. So it's going to be fun. Stick around.
It's going to be a brilliant day. So welcome. I hope you've had your coffee this morning. And just before we start the session, just a big thank you to all the organisers for putting together this amazing event. I know a lot of hard work has gone into the background of this, and it's such an honour for us. This, for myself, is the first time speaking in Italy. Vesku, how about you? Have you spoken in Italy before?
No, I haven't. I was just talking to the producer of the Fabio earlier today that I haven't been to Milan or presented at Italy, but I have been to Rome.
I know it's something that I've always wanted to do. It's a dream come true. So let's get in and see what we can expect from this session. So we're going to break it down into three parts today. The first part is what is Teams as a platform. We're going to look at what exactly it is so you can have a definition. Secondly, it's all about the how. This is going to be a demo-led session, 60 or 70%, because we want to see it in action. We want to see how Power Platform is used with Microsoft Teams. And then to kind of roll up the session, we're going to have recommendations and resources. And what we want the outcome to be today is really for you to understand what Teams as a platform is and Power Platform's role within it. The two are going to go together hand in hand, or as the expression goes, hand in glove. Now, this session today is a level 200 session, which is intermediate. So you're going to need to know a little bit about Teams and the Power Platform, but we're not going to go too far into the reads. In terms, just a caveat before we start out today, Teams and Power Platform is rapidly changing. Ignite is right around the corner. We hope to see you there. And this session will be valid for 4 to 6 weeks in general. So let's get started. And where we start out talking about Teams as a platform is really at the success of Microsoft Teams, and the success of Microsoft Teams is really all about daily active usage and the numbers, as you can see here from the slide on the left hand side. Back in July 2019, so that was at Inspire in Vegas, daily active usage of Teams stood at 13 million. So there was a lot of fanfare because this was the time where Teams had overtaken Slack in terms of the numbers. And as you can see, over the course of 2020, then those numbers have absolutely skyrocketed. So at the end of 2019, we stood at 20 million. Then as the pandemic started to occur and lots of people started to move to working remotely, you see those numbers, 44 million, then 75 million, and in the Q3 earnings call back in October, so that was what now, 4 months ago, 115 million. I'm pretty sure at Ignite in March we're going to have an update on those numbers. Now, during the time, Microsoft Teams has won a lot of accolades. So Best in Show at Enterprise Connect, leader for UCaaS and meetings as defined by Gartner. It's overtaken Slack and is closing in very fast on Zoom. Now, when we think about all the reasons for the success of Microsoft Teams, as said, remote working, a lot of this has been driven by COVID-19. COVID-19 has changed the way we work and changed the way we live, and Microsoft Teams has become very central to how our businesses are running. But it's not the only reason for success. Firstly, there's been a lot of innovations within Microsoft Teams. So we think of things like private channels, custom backgrounds, together mode, all these things that Microsoft have been continuing to add to Teams over the last kind of 1 or 2 years. The cadence has been very, very rapid. Secondly, Microsoft Teams resonates and simplifies. It's how people want to work. It's bringing together chat. It's bringing together meetings and calling and apps. It's really simplifying the way that we work. Third, Microsoft Teams is a strategic focus for Microsoft. So what that means is that Microsoft know that by using Microsoft Teams, you are accessing the rest of the Microsoft 365 stack. So it really is the, I guess, the front end, almost being referred to as an operating system, the next one after Windows. But the reason we're going to focus on today, as you can see on the right hand side, is this idea of extensibility. Now we need to know what extensibility is and how it relates to Teams as a platform. So extensibility is the software's ability to have its functionality built upon or extended by others. In other words, it's the degree to which you can customize and extend and develop your applications on top of Microsoft Teams. And this is really changing the way that we think of Microsoft Teams. When Microsoft Teams was first released back in, I think it was it came out 2016, at the end of 2016, and then went GA March 2017. It was marketed as the hub for collaboration and communication. It was all about chat, it was all about meetings, and it was all about calling. But over time, as Microsoft has increased the extensibility of the Teams platform, we are moving towards something that's called Teams as a platform. Microsoft Teams is that base upon which other apps, processes, and technologies are developed. Now, there is many benefits of that. We're moving towards a higher value model. Why? Because in building our applications on Microsoft Teams, we're bringing our applications to where users are working. We're seeing that number, that growth from 13 million all the way up to 115 million. More and more people are working in Microsoft Teams. In addition, by almost treating Teams like an operating system, it's really simplifying the way that users access their apps and how administrators distribute them. For a long time, there's been a call to be able to centralize those disparate apps and be able to create interrelationships with them. In addition, as we will see with the tools that Microsoft provide, we can fill the functionality gaps, those real business cases. If Teams cannot do something, well, we can go ahead and develop it. And of course, keeping a business in mind, there is massive opportunity for new business and new revenues off the back of this. Now, what does that opportunity look like? We've taken some of the numbers from the Forrester reports, the Total Economic Impact report that came out last year, and the partner opportunity for building apps in Microsoft Teams. Now, just look at these numbers. They're absolutely explosive. 393% projected return over 3 years from using Teams as a platform. So if you develop apps for the Teams platform and begin using them into the business, I don't know whether that will be a precise number, but there will be a huge return on developing and using those apps within Microsoft Teams. Now look at this next statistic. 57% of customers want third-party app tools available. The market is there. The market wants applications to be in Microsoft Teams. They are identifying Teams as the base and the central location in order to use and consume your applications. Many of these would pay for professional services or ongoing app costs. And just look at some of the benefits that it can give to businesses. This one statistic jumped out, a 10 to 15% reduction in HR and IT tickets by the use of bots to answer questions. So not only are we going to get a bigger return, our businesses are going to become much more efficient. Now, the best use case of an organization doing this is in fact Microsoft and the Microsoft 365 platform, because this is how an organization is developing its apps to use in Microsoft Teams. 3 examples here. If we take Microsoft Lists, so Lists came out, I think it was announced in Build last year, and then the web app experience surfaced in July, and then Teams in September, and the mobile experience for iOS has just gone GA. But when that was announced back at Build, I think that was in May last year, it was announced for Teams at the same time as a web app experience, and that is becoming increasingly important. When Microsoft creates an app, they're creating it for Teams at the same time as the native experience. Another example is Yammer. So for a long time, Yammer was a separate application from Teams, but last year, or maybe it was the end of the year before, they created the Communities app. And the Communities app within Microsoft Teams, so that you can have both your inner loop communications and your outer loop communications through a single experience. And because of that, I've noticed, at least here in the UK, I hope you have as well, that Yammer use has absolutely exploded as more use those applications together. The final one is tasks for Teams. So tasks, the new tasks app within Microsoft Teams. This brings together two other applications that were completely separate before. So we have Planner for your organizational tasks and To Do for your personal tasks. Microsoft could have chosen just to leave those apps separate, but they've combined them for a unified experience within Microsoft Teams. So in all three of these cases, Microsoft Teams has been critical in the success and adoption of those applications. Now, Microsoft are increasing the surface within Microsoft Teams, what we call the entry points with which to surface applications. We have Teams and channels, chat. We can add them as personal apps to the app rail on the left-hand side. We have UI components, but just recently they released the ability to surface applications within Microsoft Teams meetings too. So by broadening this surface as to where apps can be surfaced within Teams, they are giving developers a lot more opportunities to get creative and use Teams as this platform in many different ways. So some other app initiatives that really add to this story and you should probably be aware of. The first is app monetization. So they are trying to encourage developers and organizations to build apps for Teams by being able to monetize them through the Microsoft 365 platform. They're also trying to validate that through app certification. So the app certification process is really to draw in all of those professional developer organizations to have trust in the platform and trust in the applications. Microsoft have also provided a rich set of tools. If we think about the tools that they've developed over the course of the last kind of year or so, the Microsoft Teams Toolkit for Visual Studio and VS Code, we have SPFX, Graph API, the new GitHub app has even been added to Microsoft Teams. App Studio, where we package those applications, has been updated, and we've all been seeing the new Fluent UI design, both of Teams and the Fluent UI package with which to package your applications. The one that's most telling, the one which is that they're trying to encourage and woo organizations to get into Teams as a platform, is the App Dev Challenge. So, you know, they've recently just had it open. It finishes in the next couple of days, but they've given indications that there's going to be another one later this year. They're actually offering organizations money in a competition to be able to build an app to encourage organizations to be able to really buy in and become active participants as Teams as a platform. So how can we get started? Well, you can get started immediately simply through consuming the 700 apps, or in fact that's gone above 800 now, that are inbuilt into the Teams App Store. You also have a wide variety of app templates on GitHub, so you can get started today. You don't have to be a developer, but Microsoft's square focus is purely on, I would say, more on development and providing the tools for you to go out and create your own applications. Now, we can do this in two ways. We can do this through what we call full code methods. So we can build via your own preferred tools. So I can write my application in C#, for example. I can use tools like Visual Studio, and I can put my app in Azure as its environment. All I would need to do then is package it up via App Studio in order to integrate that with Teams. I also have the alternative option of using the SharePoint framework, SPFX. So I would use something like Angular. I would have open source tools such as Node.js. I would host that app in SharePoint, and then I would sync it to Teams. So if we're full code, we've got a couple of different ways in order to be able to build our apps and integrate them with Microsoft Teams. But if we're not professional developers, if we're what we call citizen developers, in other words, we haven't got that professional background in development, then this kind of third option, which is the Power Platform, offers a really viable route to getting started with Teams as a platform in terms of building those applications. So we have Power Apps, Power Automate, Power BI, and Power Virtual Agents, and we would create those apps and then publish them to Microsoft Teams. That's what we call low code, no code. It's not having. Now, I don't want to give anyone the wrong impression. Power Platform is absolutely for professional developers as well, but it is probably the more inclusive of the build methods, because it embraces that citizen developer. You do not have to have a great deal of development knowledge in order to get started. Now, starting out with the Power Platform, what we're going to explore for the rest of today and get hands-on is really about a different kind of conversation with the customer. So traditionally, when we talk about Teams, we're talking about the out-of-the-box experience. And we talk about Teams as if it's the hub for teamwork, bringing together chat and meetings and calling. We talk about it in terms of collaboration, or we talk about it in terms of security, when really we need to pivot and flip that conversation to really talk about what Teams can't do, or how long something takes in Teams, or how Teams is really making work rather than solving work for our organization. So by starting to talk about Power Platform, we're moving past the out-of-the-box experience to talking about customizing and enhancing it. What can't be done today in Microsoft Teams? That gives us the impetus to talk about Power Apps. What takes too long within Teams and Microsoft 365? That brings us on to a conversation about Power Automate and automating between our apps. How about the problems with handling data in Teams? That moves us on to a conversation with Power BI. And what about this problem that we have in our organizations where we're repeatedly having to ask questions, the same questions over and over again? That is something that can be solved through Power Virtual Agents. Now, the benefits of the Power Platform, I think, are really well known. We can build quickly and get a return quickly. All of this, as will be shown today, can be done in Teams, and we have significant resources that we'll talk about at the end in order to learn and support you. So the final slide before we get on and get hands-on is really about this insight, this understanding of the value of Teams as a platform, particularly with regards to the Power Platform. It's really about going beyond the out-of-the-box functionality. So when we introduce Teams within an organization, we often start out at that core workload, chat and files. We'll move up to meetings and calling. A lot less organizations will take security and use those out-of-the-box apps. But if we want that really high productivity, we have to move to a customized and enhanced conversation. Now, we can go down the full code, but today we're going to show you about the Power Platform. It's about creating apps based on business need, automating those low-level tasks, making data-driven decisions, and assigning bots for repetitive conversations. That is it. In terms of you're not going to have teams that are as productive if they do not use the Power Platform. And that is where I can now hand over to Vesku, and we're going to get hands-on with 3 demos that can show you the power of the Power Platform.
Thank you, Chris. That was a kind of a really good setup of how we start these things. And as the first demo, it's going to be about employee onboarding experience, how you can use Power Virtual Agents, Power BI, Power Automate, and Power Apps to kind of enhance the experience and make it more like a self-help experience at the same time. So I think I'm going to dive into the demo, and we can see how it gets going. I have this demo environment I've been using, and I will be using that one. So you can see there's lots of kind of different teams. There's this imaginative company called the Platform Company. It has a relation to the Teams as a platform, of course, but to give you idea how you can boost these things, and also think how you could be starting to use these in your own organization. For example, in onboarding situations, you might have a lot of new employees coming up, or you have a lot of changes there, and they need to be taken up to speed. You need to collect some information from them, and the bots are a really great kind of tool for that. And just to kind of get started, we have a hey, let's say hi from the communicator application, and it kind of directs the user to the bot, just and say okay. your friendly onboarding bot, and it will kind of bring in the starting point here. This is just a Power Virtual Agent, and of course with some added extra. But everything here is basically what you can do in Teams and database for Teams, except for a small change I did to the end. So we can start onboarding, and we could watch the welcome video. It's in the YouTube, and please update your personal information first. And as you can see, there are a couple of few tabs alongside the bot that you can use to bring your own Power Apps to this field. You can update the information, provide some training application. Perhaps you have something more like a now, all right, I have updated my information. I have done whatever I wanted to check out before going forward, and then we can start progressing with the onboarding. So we have our image there and our basic information, whatever is there, and then the bot is kind of analyzing that for a moment. Or actually, this is a database for Teams, so not every routine is kind of happening instantly. There can be small delays, but not too much, as you can see. But when you are doing a live demo, of course, it's very, very kind of intriguing to wait, okay, when it's going to go to the next phase. So I asked my nickname and some of my personal intro. I really don't like doing the introduction text, so usually this is why if you could kind of boost up your your bot for asking questions from the person, so you can answer the questions like, okay, what kind of movies you like, and then okay, do you like Trek or Star Wars? I prefer Trek. I know Chris prefers more Star Wars anyway, and or probably, and then we can have some fun. So what you can see here is the interactivity you can provide with the Power Virtual Agents. There are bots. They can ask questions. You can kind of ask more details. I'm not going to have this like 20 questions now. I'm just having basically one. And then I can come back with GIFs. I can come back with images, with links, some kind of text formatting. And here's my introductory text. The point here was to basically add some information from these questions. I have my photo. Okay, that's going forward in the process. Just doing some search with Bing and getting some answers about on the related interest areas, like making that a friendly bot. But also they are adding tasks, so I don't forget. And then I'm already getting some requests for approval because this is one user machine right now. But also the bot has, well, they have added me tasks, but they also have added me a meeting to my calendar that it's starting in just a couple of hours, and I have a meeting link. I could just join the Teams meeting right away, meeting with HR. So it can kind of find the time and start kind of scheduling the meeting, but of course, what tasks. So you can see what Power Automate can do for you in the behind the scenes. So they can automate things like adding tasks, adding information to the user, making them aware about something, about practices, what I should be doing next, going for my tasks, and I can see, okay, I have some trainings I need to go through, and just click them OK for demo purposes. And I have the meeting with HR. It just overlapped with my lunch. We don't, so it can override some certain things. So everything like that is possible. And that's the end user side or the new employee side. But if you look at the from the side of the HR, okay, we got the information about the user. We got the introductory text. Of course, somebody needs to review it before we publish to everyone in the company. We have the text and the approval happening inside the HR channel. So everybody in the HR knows, okay, this was the thing, and somebody can there just select, okay, this is okay, and we can submit, and it can publish it automatically to the whole company. So everybody can see, hey, we have a new employee with this kind of basic information. But that's not everything. because of course we have backend systems we work with, and we want to provide that information there. It's not everything happening inside Teams, and for that you might have selected persons who are approving that basic information. Of course, there should be a link for, okay, this is all the information we have about this person. Is everything okay? And we can then just approve for sending that information to the backend HR. And we can see in the approvals application, utilizing the Teams as a platform as a whole, that we can see, okay, who approved what. So you have a trace about that as well. So it's remaining here, and then we just carry on with the rest of the actions. What I'm doing here is I'm going to run one trigger at the Azure Logic Apps, because otherwise we might be having to wait for a while to get some information updated, because that information is now sending it all that basic info, or basically it's just creating a new employee into the backend system. And that backend system in this case is in another tenant. It's in a Business Central, and so it's a Contos or something. Just to point out that you can interact and create that person here directly from the flow, or actually not from the flow. What flow is doing, it's writing it to the one place, and this Azure Logic Apps is just looking around that place, so we can update that information and to everywhere we want. So that's a kind of way to reach out of the normal constraints you may have with the Power Platform here, and you just go to Azure and do more from there. So it's a kind of a flow where you can utilize different parts. You have an application sending the welcome message, then you have a bot that interacts with the user and starts those flows, adding tasks, adding meetings, doing everything behind, sending that information for approval, for introductory text, and for some managers to check out the information before they are updated to the backend system. So you have some gates with human interaction there, so not everything is flowing in automatically, but somebody, a real person needs to check them, and then they are processed forward automatically. And that's why I really like this process, because that's the kind of way you can start using this and going forward. How did you like this one, Chris?
I love this one. I think, employee onboarding, I think my own organization's experience before, we had real problems when a new person would come into the business and introducing them into Teams, and you can also extend these flows to push it out onto things like Yammer as well. So, by using this, I made a lot of recommendations to my own business in order to use something like this, and it's gone down really well for us, and everyone's happy.
Excellent. Should we move to the next one? Yeah, of course. Otherwise, we will be spending the whole day here talking about this. And the next demo is from a slightly different angle. It's about how do you engage your people on the field from anywhere, in stores, in maintenance work, basically everyone who is categorized as a first-line worker. And what they do usually is that they work with their mobile phone. And so how do you engage them and interact with them? How do you get them to report back something to the HQ on the go, and how do you kind of keep that momentum going on? So we jump to the role. First, we are basically a manager or somebody who's organizing some tasks for these first-line workers there. So what we are using is one of the applications called Checklist. That's another app template. I'm just showing it how you can use it really easily. Let's put just some Italy tasks there. Was it espresso? And let's put something like Milano tour. Well, they're not really tasks, but something like that. So we are relaying some information to everyone in the same team or in the same channel. So something, okay, this is perhaps something you should be doing. Yeah, ideally this would come from the back end, and then they would just appear there, and people would be able to interact that. Okay, would it be a planner? Would it be a checklist? Would it be something else? That's up. It really depends. That's the scenario. How do you work? What is going to be working best in the best way for you? And that's one of the things in the Teams as a platform. Adjust it to your needs. How you are going to be using that, and that's the really important part. Now, because we are a mobile worker, I'm going to go another live demo here. Is just to mirror my phone there. So I can we can start seeing okay what's happening in Teams. And if I go now, you can see my phone that I'm holding. And once it loads, that's always the fun part. Whatever is happening, how long it's going to take. But basically, is that it should be showing me. Okay, let's try to reload it. And if there's any issues, then I just skip it soon because of the limited time. But basically, you would be seeing the checklist here. I could be able to just interact with that. And for some reason, it's not loading now, so I let it just keep on loading, and I will go to the some more applications. And with Power Apps or Power Platform, database for Teams, you can start creating applications that can be brought to your first-line employees, and they can interact with them. I just recently this week I installed the inspection app. That is kind of an application template there. You can easily deploy to your teams and start modifying that or modifying and using that in your scenarios. So let's open the inspection app, and it's a Power App that has been brought into Teams, so we can use it directly from within Teams. And there we can start working on that. This is not perhaps an ideal app for the mobile phone because I think the text is really small, but we can go through the, for example, the front desk tour. So we can start making an inspection. How is it going to be looking like? Let's begin the inspection. Is everything okay? We are doing our morning run there. And filled with available products, yeah, that is. And as you can see from a very small text, we could add photos, notes, tasks. So we can add a note and say, looks good. Okay, let's use that. And we can save a note. So we can apply to something in there. And we have a packet perfect standards of display. No, there's some issues, but we just add a photo, and I took it yesterday. From my window, so I can just show around that you can add things there. And we review the inspection. And we submit it for review, everything's good, and the people at the HQ will know that everything is going to be okay, or what is happening there. Okay, please keep the app open, it's going to submit the photo. It seems it's a bit slow today. But once it's there, okay, now it's there, and there could be triggers, okay, what should be doing about that. But while we are on the go, we can still, okay, the checklist has appeared. Yes, it didn't fail totally. We could just say, okay, we have taken our espresso and we are good to go. And that way everyone knows that, okay, somebody has already done the tasks, it's updating the card in the team channel. It's a very, very quick way to do things. And one more thing that's really useful is that, of course, we can use the approvals. We can start creating, like we may have a work order for approval, work order for some task, for a task, and we add approvals, we add ourselves so we don't get confused there. And perhaps this takes 3 hours. So we can make an ad hoc request for our manager or somebody and just send the approval in. And so when they approve, I'm going to be seeing that something has happened. And if the manager is using the mobile phone, they would be seeing that, okay, they have a new approval to go through. And let me just go there and see how it's going forward. Well, we can see the task was done. We can go for the approval request. That's very similar to the previous demo. And we can see it was requested for 3 hours work order for a task, and we approve, and yet again, we have the trace. So creating the ad hoc requests and something like that is possible. Or you can have a Power App there. That is collecting the information, you create an approval request on the process, and then you automate everything else what's in there. And in the team, there's the manage inspections, so the HQ can see what kind of inspections have been going. Is there something that we should be worrying about or doing? We were checking the front desk, yeah, I think that was the one. We had one issue about there, and we also have got a comment in the other one. And we can go ahead and say, okay, this was pending action because we had an issue. And that same application has some insights. This is a very nice application that you can tune to your needs and go forward with that one. Yeah, so that was the second one. I think we are faster than before, Chris.
Yeah. I mean, we're playing for time today. I like these short, sharp sessions. But what I love about that demo is that amazingly, and I didn't anticipate this, you put inspections in there as well, so tasks and inspections. And this is the great thing about Teams as a platform, because you can see that we're embedding those apps within one single experience, but also as well between office-based workers and first line workers as well, and you can see that it's supporting both of those two different scenarios. That's what I love about this demo, the fact that it can apply to every user within the business, however it is that they're working.
Yeah, indeed. And when you are doing Power Apps, you can deploy them as Teams applications, so they will be really usable and selectable from the apps for the user. So you can, and when you deploy them to the specific users, it's really useful from mobile phone. For example, you have store workers; they have the applications related to their store, for example. And on the other hand, you may have maintenance workers who have a totally different applications, so you don't have to worry about them seeing the wrong apps, for example. And for the third and final demo part here is about the promise of the bot you made in the early slides about how utilizing smart bots can really help the burden of the IT and HR. They are getting questions all the time. Those are routine questions. Perhaps a bot could be answering those. There might be a knowledge base, there might be FAQ, there might be just some questions and answers. But also, there's also what I have created there is a scenario where you can create kind of a self-help trees, and based on those answers, you can kind of provide options to the users. So perhaps the situation will just go resolves without having to have a real person there. Or in some cases, you want that real person there because that's the only way to get started. So we can take a look on the agent, but we can what we are taking a look here is another Power Virtual agent. It's a bot. It has been enhanced with some Power Automate, so you can create things in there, and it can answer some specific questions like if you have a knowledge base, it could have HR questions, questions about the company, IT questions. So it will go ahead and check out from the knowledge base that what kind of answers we have, and yeah, this is just some FAQ I filled from the Teams FAQs and pushed in the information there. And as you can see, you can have pictures, you can have rich text there. And it's a really good looking kind of a easy way to bring in the information to the user. And that's for generic stuff. That's just inquiring those from Q&A database. If I have an issue with my Surface Pro, for example, and there can be triggers in the bots that, okay, let's get started resolving about the Surface Pro. And yeah, it was about the Surface Pro. It's not the smartest question here, but it should already know about that. But it can then start going through some typical issues, like there has been cases in the company a lot that, okay, it has been running slow or hot, and perhaps there's a fix that the self-help could resolve that. And they can provide some ideas. Okay, let's check the power mode. Okay, did it help? And the user can say yes or no. They can try things and they can start doing things. And of course, the beauty in here is that you could be doing this via mobile phone because perhaps your computer is running, it's not working. You don't have access to those large FAQ applications somewhere. So, and you haven't recreated them in Power Apps, for example, or you just, when you're on your mobile phone, the large applications don't really work well. So the question and answers chat-based applications can help a lot here. So, and in case we can go to the dead end, nothing the bot suggests doesn't help, and we just want to kind of make a ticket out of that. So we ask for more information, and let's just put Italy there in the beginning. So we know that, okay, this is about this live demo. And so we provide some information, and it will go ahead and again to the another knowledge base or FAQ to check out for more specific answers or perhaps more technical answers. And say, but on the same time, it's just saying, okay, we have created a ticket because there's an issue and it's not going to fix that. So we go for the where's my IT company there. We just created a ticket that's 10:45 a.m. here, and we have a task, and I just go for the planner tasks and see, okay, there's the Italy task. So we have created a ticket, and the team will know what's happening, who was creating that, and how's it going forward. And then we have the HR part. We have typical questions from HR that go to the backends. For example, one of the typical ones is that might be that how many hours or days I have vacation left. Can I take a day off? Something like that. Okay, you have 13 days of vacation waiting for you. So it can go to the source, something else. So the loop might be a slight longer, but on the same application, it will just return the information. It could be something like, I want a day off or something like that. So you can create, start those processes from the bot. And of course, you might have a Power App application for that. You might have forms or whatever part in your intranet for that. But they all could be leading to the same process. And you would be using the Power virtual agent bot for that. But sometimes there's a need to ask questions from real persons. And that's when you want to direct them to be talking with the HR. So it will figure out it for a few moments. Let's hope it's running, or I just hit the start over soon. Yeah, it's always interesting when you are doing this one. So some things can get stuck. Sometimes that's a good live demo effect, or something just waits a moment. Okay, here now it's replied. I need to ask questions from a real person. Okay, what do you want to ask? Let's just ask what's the weather like in Milano today. So we just ask a question. And this time I'm going to get the message about the platform HR and questions. And if I go ahead and check it out, it can surface that question and anonymize that to the HR, perhaps mentioning some specific people there. Well, I don't have the weather there, but in Finland, I can't type today. It's -3 Celsius. Oh, it's not that bad, and I can just reply. Then I'm getting notifications of getting the message back, and you can have that interaction there. So it can connect to the person, you can get reply, and then you get back there. So I think that was new as well for you, Chris.
I love Power Virtual Agents. I mean, I think about how many questions I get on a day-to-day basis that are the same questions time and time again. And when we really start to think about productivity within an organization, you have to think about not necessarily the big things that take away our time, but the small things. You think of the aggregation of those same questions, then you have to pause in the middle of your workflow. And then I think there have been studies out that if you're disrupted from your workflow, it can be 15-20 minutes before you get back to the same thing that you were doing. So having a smart bot that, you know, with inside the environment that can help, where people can be directed to, is really important, I think, for productivity, making sure that people aren't disrupted, that they can focus on, but also for the ease, and it's there anytime. I mean, you think that as people, we're only in our organization from 9 to 5, but this bot is available 24 hours a day at all times. So if you're working remotely at the weekend, you can get the question that you want, rather than having to wait till Monday morning for the person to be in the office. And this demo refers back to those statistics that we had right at the start, where it was saving IT and HR departments, you know, there was a 10 to 15% gain in productivity from them. So I think this has been a really pertinent demo.
Excellent. So I think it's time for the wrap up and the last slides.
Absolutely. So in terms of recommendations and resources, it's really important, having seen these demos, for you to go on, to get hands-on with Power Platform and Microsoft Teams. So that is really, I guess, the one biggest recommendation is get hands-on, spin up a demo environment or a trial environment, and really test this out. What Vesku and I have shown today is really the tip of the iceberg. And if you follow our blogs, we've been blogging on this for a long time. There's many different ways that you can implement these things. You're only really limited by your imagination. So get hands-on, use that trial tenant or demos.microsoft.com if you're a Microsoft partner. That really helps. In terms of how you get this into an organization, the third recommendation we would give in terms of Power Apps is asking users or asking the organization what can't be done out of the box. Within Microsoft Teams, for example, do you need to create an application for taking time off? Do you need to create an application for having kind of, I don't know, trips away from the office? Do you need one for purchase orders or expenses? There's many different things that Teams doesn't do out of the box. In terms of Power Automate, what's taking too long? What's taking a long time to do between applications within Microsoft Teams? When it comes to Power BI, the best thing really is around the meeting, particularly around decisions that are made within organizations without data. You've probably experienced it. We're all sitting in a room and decisions are made based upon gut feeling and emotion as opposed to data. What does the data say? If you bring that into your meetings and your conversations, you will get better decisions. You will get data-driven decisions. And last but not least is Power Virtual Agents. And this idea is that questions within inside the organization, if you identify somebody who's getting asked questions all the time, then maybe that they would appreciate the deployment of this Power Virtual Agent. Now, we're not going to lie, we're going to hold up our hands and say that these conversations aren't always easy ones to have, because change is hard to implement within organizations. So you might need to sell into your own organization. You might need to get stakeholders. A good way to do that is to get certified. So if you go through your Power Platform fundamentals, you'll learn a lot more about Power Platform, but by the end of it, you should be all in. Finally, is going back to Teams as a platform. Teams as just a communication tool is really underutilized. Most people still live in that world of thinking that chat and meetings and calling is what Teams is all about, but we're coming into the new era of Microsoft Teams, and that is Teams as a platform. So you can see on the right hand side, there's loads of free resources. The Power Platform community, I mean, events like this, Power Platform community is one of the best communities in Microsoft. There are so many great experts to learn from out there, but you have lots of other free resources such as Microsoft Learn, Microsoft Build, that's going to be back in May. You've got Ignite that's just around the corner, but YouTube, tech community, community blogs, there's lots out there. This is a very vibrant and active area. But if you did want to go for the paid resources, that is an option too. So Pluralsight, Udemy, instructor-led training that would take you through your certifications, such as Power Platform App Maker. Microsoft have just completely redone all of the Power Platform certifications, so there is a massive kind of opportunity for you there. So I think that comes to the end, Vesku. Is it the, yeah, so we'll wrap up, we'll get back to the outcomes. In this session, we looked and broke it down into 3 parts. We looked at what Teams as a platform is, Teams as a base with which to use and develop your other applications. It's almost like the next generation operating system after Windows. That's the direction we're moving in. We're moving away from Teams just being a communications tool. We have lots of tools to do it. We can use the full code methods, such as bringing your own tools or using the SharePoint framework, or as you have seen and as we have demoed, you can use the Power Platform. You can get involved immediately for huge benefits to your organization. How do we do that? We did that through 3 simple demos. Those demos are just the tip of the iceberg to show you what is possible. It was all to whet your appetite. The job for you now is to go on, get active, and that's really the recommendation. It's go there, go do, and I hope you have understood Teams as a platform and Power Platform's key role within it. It's going to be driving so much citizen development. The professional developers, it's not going to exclude them. It's for them as well. So this session has been an intermediate session. We said you needed to know a little bit about Teams and the Power Platform. We've tried to make it as demo heavy as possible, but do bear in mind, it changes really fast. So what you've seen today, we can only really say is valid for 4 to 6 weeks. And that wraps up for me and Vesku. So we want to say thank you ever so much. I think we've got one more slide, Vesku. You can always follow us. We have Twitter, we're on LinkedIn, we have our own websites, we blog on this a lot. Also as well, we both run Teams Nation, which we're hoping that the organisers for Milan will be joining us with in May. Also as well, as you can see, we're very busy. We've got a lot of stuff on the next few months. We're talking a lot more about Teams as a platform, and this year Vesku and I will be doing a lot more sessions in this area together. So this is really just the very first one from us. So we hope you enjoyed the session. We're going to put up now the survey, so please go ahead. The organisers are always looking for feedback. Vesku, whilst people are doing that, is there anything you would like to say? I mean, I'm just so excited in this area. For me, it's where it's been going for a long time now.
Yeah, it's a really exciting part, because I have noticed that in the last year I have been using Power Platform more and more all the time with Teams, because it's kind of integral part of that. That's the way you become a Teams superhero, if you want. That's my other session, but basically is that how do you leverage Power Automate, how you leverage all these capabilities for yourself, for your team, for your organization. They really scale up, and that's kind of a beauty of that. It's really fun to do this, because it's just everything that's possible. Basically, I'm just saying the universe is the limit, or something like that. It's just not the clouds anymore, because you can interact with so many systems in there. We have a couple of questions there that we can take. There's a question about is it possible to rename the app name, for example, inspections to check? And yes, it is. They are Power Apps, so you can go ahead and change the name. You can change the logos. You can change the contents. You can add new features. You can take away features that you don't like. They are deployed to your database for Teams, so you can do a lot of changes there, including changes to the data model if you want.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I kind of I know we've done blogs recently, myself and yourself, on bulletins and milestones. I got another one coming up for employee ideas. You can change it in Power Apps. One thing that, as I was looking at this question, can you also change it in the environment itself, in the Power Platform admin? Is that where you could change the name itself? Is that another area?
in the admin part.
That's correct.
I haven't tested that one, I have to admit. I've been working through Teams in here, thinking about how kind of a very agile business team would be doing using those applications, how they would be doing the changes. And then, of course, when you think about the Power Platform admin side, it's about governance. How do you kind of look at the big picture? How do you kind of start governing your application so your environment is not running wild? And that's, I think, another session title or something we could be doing. There was one other question about is it possible to send a real question to the first available person? So check the status before forwarding the request. Yes, there's a presence API that might not be possible without using the premium Power Automate, but with that, at least you can call a Graph API to check out the availability of that specific person. So you may have a team and you go ahead and check the statuses of everyone and then choose the person. But what I would really be doing instead is that I would post that to the team channel and send a ping to that team. So anyone who is available, even if they are in a meeting, perhaps they are multitasking like many of us do. They could be just taking and answering that question.
That sounds like a new blog for you, Vestu, that you will be doing in next month. But I think time's getting on. We're only a few minutes from the session, so I think that we have to exit stage left. So we just want to say thank you ever so much for everyone. We really hope you're enjoying your day. Thank you ever so much to the organisers of this. It's been a real pleasure, and we hope we can come back in the future to speak for you again. So thank you ever so much. Take care of yourselves. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.